the book explains this one. So instead of using the book, we're gonna use some guided notes, and we're gonna add these guided notes to your book because I think you'll have a clearer, better understanding of relative frequency tables. On the board over here to the side, I put we've got two learning goals today. These are on your learning targets sheet. I can calculate values in a relative frequency table, and I can describe what the values in a relative frequency table mean. We're going to be using both of those learning targets over the next couple of days. The one I really want to focus on today is that I can calculate values in a relative frequency table. This gets a little tricky, and that's why I think the guided notes are a better way to go, because then you'll have this with you while we work on this for the next couple of days. So the first thing in the guided notes that it starts off with up at the top is just a review of the two-way tables we did yesterday. So in the bubble, it says categorical data, which is what we're working on. This whole unit's about categorical data. And it's information divided into groups. So write groups in your bubble spot up there. Now, we created two-way tables yesterday. Two-way tables are divided into categories. There's two different categories, why they're called two-way tables. So in this arrow, I want you to write categories. That's where the categories go for our two-way table. Now, your two-way table is already filled out for you. The first category we're looking at is TV in a bedroom, no TV in the bedroom. So we have surveyed some students. And the questions they were asked are, do you have a TV in your bedroom? And then the other one, this category, are they asleep before midnight or are they asleep after midnight? Now, two terms that are really, really going to be important that you've got to know the difference between is a row and a column. Columns go up and down. So go ahead and outline this column and write column up above it. Columns go up and down. In fact, a column is something that can be used to hold an awning up or like a pillar. That's a column that goes up and down. Across, I want you to outline this bottom row and label it a row. Rows go across. The easiest way I can come up to remind me what a row is that you row a boat across a lake. So outline those in your notes. We know the difference between a row and a column. So the two-way table then has to be tallied up, has to be added up, and we did that yesterday. We added the columns. How many people have a TV in their bedroom?
8.
8 total, because that's the total of the column of people that have a TV in the bedroom. How many people do not have a TV in their bedroom?
17.
How many people go to sleep after midnight?
13.
13, that's the total of that row. How many people were surveyed altogether?
25.
How do you know it's 25?
It's in the total, and you can add them up.
But I have a column and a row that say total.
They both. Both of them.
It's gonna be that bottom right corner one, and that's why I've got it circled on my notes. The bottom right corner, this is gonna be the total of everything, and the column total and the row total should both come to that number. Okay, are we good there? So a two-way table is raw data. It's just the numbers. And it's great to have, but then when you want to start analyzing the numbers, when you want to start analyzing the data to determine, to make an association, to make a prediction, the raw numbers get a little bit more difficult to make that with. So that's where a relative frequency table comes in. So, right below it is a relative frequency table, and fill this in. The relative frequency table is a ratio. It's a ratio that compares the number in a specific category to the total number. So when we're creating the relative frequency tables, and remember, this is just the introductory lesson. We're going to have lots more practice on this. When we're creating the relative frequency table, we have to really focus on what it is they're wanting us to analyze. Because there's lots of different ratios we can create from this. So the first one, the first problem that they're giving us, it says, what is the proportion of students? I want you to box the of students. What is the proportion of students who have a TV in their bedroom? Of students means we need to look at the total surveyed. So box of students, and right above it, write total. And then we need to know which one of the categories are we looking at. Well, it says who have a TV in their bedroom. So box have a TV in their bedroom. That's the category I want to look at. So that's going to be my ratio. That's going to be my proportion. I'm looking at the number of students with a TV in their room over the total number of students. So this is when we have to go back and we have to look at the raw data, the two-way table. What's the number of students who have a TV in their room? 8. So my proportion is going to be 8 over the total number of students, which is 25. So this is my proportion. Now, that it looks great. I mean, it's a proportion. I know specifically what I'm looking at. But when I analyze, it's a whole lot easier to look at a percentage. And this goes back to probably about 5th grade. We can turn any ratio, any fraction, into a percentage by dividing. So put divide in that arrow. So in your Desmos, even though I got the answer up, I want you to see how I got the answer. In your Desmos, I want you to take 8 and divide it by 25. 8 divided by 25. And you get a decimal, 0.32. But we have to multiply that by 100 because we want it to be a percent. And a percent is always out of 100. So 32 times 100, 0.32 times 100, move the decimal point 2 places, 32%, and then our statement, 32% of the students have a TV in their bedrooms. And that's what we can use a relative frequency table for. Because then we can analyze things and we can make predictions, which we will by the end of the period, using the 32%. Are we okay so far? Yes, no, kind of okay? All right, let's go to the back. Okay, so we have 2 examples we're going to start with. The first example, this is on your paper. It's going to be easier to see on your paper than on the board right now. It says, what is the proportion? So that means I don't need just the numbers, I need to be making a proportion, I'm gonna make a fraction. Of students who have TVs in their rooms, underline, students who have TVs in their room, who went to bed before midnight. So students who have TVs in their rooms is gonna be my total. This is the total, and then the category that I'm looking at is the ones who went to bed before midnight. So we look back at the raw data at the two-way table. Students with TVs and asleep before midnight. Let's make sure that's right because we had a little controversy earlier. Look back at the table. Students who had a TV in the bedroom and were asleep before midnight. Do we agree that it's 3?
Yeah.
Okay. So 3 out of our total of 8. This is my proportion. We need to turn it into a percent. So we need to divide. 3 divided by 8, if you put that in Desmos, you would get 0.375, but I want to round it to 2 digits.
0.38.
Why would it be 0.38?
Anything 4 and above gets rounded up.
Yes. So this would become 0.38, which would become 38%. So let's look at the second example. What is the relative frequency for the asleep after midnight category?
Sorry.
Hmm?
Can you say it again?
It's on your paper, example 2. What is the relative frequency for the asleep after midnight category? They didn't tell us the total, so we're going to assume this is out of everybody surveyed. So we go back to the two-way table. Does this talk about TVs at all? No. So we need the total number of students who were asleep after midnight. Total number of students asleep after midnight is 13. Divided by the total number of students, which is 25. When I divide those numbers, I get 0.52. What percent would that be? 52%. And then in that box where it says relative frequency means the same thing as proportion. And that's one thing you're gonna have to pay attention to when you're answering questions. Are you looking for a two-way table? Are you looking for a relative frequency table? Are you looking for proportions or are you just looking for the number? So we've got 2 what ifs below that. The first what if, a student in this class, in the class that we've got the data for, is selected at random. Would you predict this student has a TV in his or her bedroom? Why or why not? I'm gonna give you 1 minute. Look back at the boxes that we've already filled in. Find the proportion that we already found for this one. And then I want you to write down, do you think that person, if I just selected somebody at random, would you predict they have a TV in their room? And then why or why not? 1 minute. Alexa, put 1 minute on the timer. 1 minute, starting now. you predict that if we just picked somebody at random, they have a TV in their room based on the data we've got? And then you gotta be able to defend your claim. Look at the proportions that we created. Alexa, stop. So how many say yes, they predict the student that we pick at random have a TV in their room? So why do you think that?
Because most person is asleep after midnight, and what are you gonna be doing after midnight?
Okay, so you went by what time they went to sleep and that more people stayed up past midnight, okay? Autumn, what do you say?
Yes, because most kids have a TV in their room, like, especially with nowadays.
Okay, so you went by what we go on nowadays, okay? So everybody else said no, they predict no? Why? Jack, why do you predict no?
I say no because only 32% of students have a TV in their room.
Now remember, and that's the thing you gotta be careful of, we're only looking at these people that we sampled, we're not looking at everybody. So we're not looking at what in general most people have, we're looking at just the data. We can't go by what we think everybody else is doing. So we looked at just this data. AJ, what'd you say?
I agree with Jack.
The same thing, because that percentage is 32%. That was the very first proportion that we figured up. The very first proportion we figured up said 32% of students have a TV in their bedroom. That's too low. Now, does that mean the person that I picked from at random is gonna be one that doesn't have a TV in their room?
You never know.
There's a chance I could pick somebody else, but
So slim that it's unlikely.
more than likely, if I just wanted to look at the data, I'm probably gonna pick somebody who does not have a TV in their room.
Yeah, because like 68 people did not have a
Right.
TV.
And that's where the percentages make it a little easier for us to make associations. So let's look at the second what if. Well, let me put my what if up here first. So my what if, here's the proportion, it was 32%. And I said, no, I wouldn't predict the student has a TV in his or her room because only 32% of the students have TVs in their rooms. I answered the question, and then I justified my reasoning by using the data. Does that, are you with me now? Okay. So let's look at the second what if. Your friend says there's a greater proportion of students who don't have a TV in their room and go to bed after midnight than students who have a TV in their room and go to bed before midnight. Do you agree? Now we have to look at this one a little differently, because we've got two different proportions that we need to look at. We have two different categories. The first category I want you to underline is don't have a TV in their rooms and go to bed after midnight. That's the first category. So let's look back at the two-way table. How many students, let me make sure I say this right, do not have a TV in their bedroom and fall asleep after midnight? 8. So right here next to this, I want you to put an 8 so we don't forget that number. Now the second category we're looking at, who have a TV in their rooms and go to bed before midnight. So go back to the two-way table. How many have a TV in their room and asleep before midnight? That's 3. I need two people who say yes, they do agree with their friend, that are willing to argue with us. They're willing to argue with us. All right, AJ, you're gonna come argue with me. All right, Ivy, get your paper and argue with her. So I want you two to go through your argument first. So let's start with the no. Why do you say no?
I say no because the habit don't have a TV that go but after midnight is 33% and 32% is greater than 8.
I think you got that mixed up.
Okay, so explain that to her.
Okay,
Explain it to her.
Okay, because who don't have a TV in the room and then go to sleep after midnight, that was 8 out of 25. And then 8 divided by 25 is 0.35. And then that's 35%. And then the people who have a TV in their room and then go to sleep before midnight is 3 out of 25. And then 3 divided by 25 is 0.12. And then that gives 12%. Then when you subtract 35% from 12%, it's 23%. So that means that the students who don't have a TV in their rooms is 23% bigger than the people who have a TV in their room. Go sleep for midnight.
So you had the right numbers, you just had them mixed up. Okay, do you see that now? Alright, so do you wanna change your mind? Will you agree with your friend, or do you still wanna disagree with your friend? You're gonna agree with your friend now? You're still gonna disagree? You said you disagreed, but you had your numbers mixed up.
I'm confused.
Now do you agree with Ivy? How about that? Do you agree with what Ivy said? Okay, alright, have a seat. Have a seat, guys. Okay, so AJ, I do not want to agree with my friend. First off, my friend doesn't know what they're talking about all the time. I mean, my friend sometimes makes up their own stuff, so I don't agree with my friend. The other thing is, I mean, they're saying that students who don't have a TV in their room they go to bed after midnight. What are they doing? I mean, what are they doing if they're going to bed after midnight? They don't have a TV to watch. So I just don't think that's gonna be more.
Well, due to the class's resume, or test, they agreed, I stay up after midnight more.
So you're going by the data and not just what you think happens?
Yeah.
Okay, I agree with you. Alright, thank you guys. So do you see why the percentages can be important? The percentages can help us out. And by the way, yes, I did agree. The proportion of students who don't have a TV and were asleep after midnight is greater than the other one. Okay, so keep this, I need you to get your book out. Don't put this paper away, because we're not done with it quite yet.
I guess that's a good thing I didn't go put it up.
That is a good thing you didn't go put it up. Okay, so like I said, this was just an introduction to relative frequency tables. At the top of this paper, on the front side of it, back where it said two-way tables, I want you to rate yourself where you're at with our learning goal. Now, I changed it up a little bit. So if you look over next to the learning goals, we've got different ratings. If you say that you still need help, I mean, you don't even know where to begin, I need help setting this up, you're at a 1. If you think you can do this but you're not quite sure, then you'd be a 1.5. If you think you can do this without any help and you want to give it a try, you're at a 2. If you've got this, then you're at a 3. If you're in between those, you're at a 2.5. Are you with me so far? Are you understanding? Now, a 4 means, hey, not only can I do this, but throw something even harder at me. Your goal, okay, here's my deal with the goal. You definitely want to achieve the 3. But I am not against anybody pushing themselves just a little bit harder. So yeah, I do expect you at some point to be able to do just a little bit more than this, even though I don't show you how to do it. So my goal is to push you up further. But definitely everybody should be able to reach a 3. Now, this is first lesson on it. So at the top of your paper, I want you to rate yourself where you're at right now. You're gonna put this in your book on page 14, because that's where this lesson was in your book.
Page 14.
Page 14.
You want us to put it on there?
Now, just stick it in there. Page 14. And then, go to Google Classroom.
Bless you.
Go to Google Classroom. So your cool down for today is really just to let me know where you're at. I expect you, to be able to do most of this. I mean, I'm not gonna be upset if you don't get it correct. This was the first lesson. So I want you to give me your best effort. When you're at Google Classroom, I need to explain a couple of things. So the problem in Google Classroom, you're looking at people that were surveyed, were asked if they're right-handed or left-handed, and is their handwriting neat or messy. That's what we're looking at. You're given this two-way table. The only thing that's not figured out is the totals. I need the totals of the rows because the question is asking me specifically what hand they write with. Are you with me? It's not asking for the total people that were surveyed. It's saying of left-handed writers. So that's what's telling me it needs to be the rows. It's asking you below that to create a frequency table. So to create the frequency table, you're taking the data and setting it into proportions. So in the corresponding boxes would be the proportions, but I need them as a percent. So for example, left-handed that are neat, there's 5 out of the 15. So you would take 5 divided by 15 and give me the percent. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Right-handed, neat, 34 of the 65 who write right-handed. So that's going to get you started. Complete the frequency table, and then answer the questions about your frequency table. Yeah, you're going to put the percents in that box. Yeah. So tomorrow we're going to continue doing this, but we're going to use it. We're going to analyze. We're going to be able to answer questions based on frequency tables that we create. Let's put some music on. especially when it comes to this, sometimes I have to read it out loud to be sure I get the wording correct. So like I said, tomorrow we're gonna have more time to practice this, more time to analyze it. Hopefully we can change some of your ratings tomorrow to a higher rating after we do it with a little bit more practice.